Good afternoon, y'all. David Atkins, target individual. I'm back by the grace of God. And today I'm going to be talking mostly about Havana syndrome, but I'm also going to be talking about direct energy weapons and remote neural monitoring, all tied into one. I have some really good information I found today. 3 whole books of good information. So look for some really good videos coming up. And I'm gonna read a Bible verse and talk about that a little bit before I get started. It ain't gonna take like 30 seconds. So, if I start reading it and you're like, oh my gosh, he's talking about, and you're not into that, just scroll past it and where I start on what I'm gonna start on. Other than that, I've been getting hit, my friend been getting hit, just everyday stuff, I'm not quite there on my rent money and I got 2 more days to get it. Kind of discouraged about that, but I got faith. God will provide. Anyway, today I'm gonna come out of Matthew 5 verse 11 and 12. Jesus said, "Blessed are you," and this comes out of the Beatitudes. Matthew 5 is a really good chapter. I used to listen to it all the time. I would put it on audio, Matthew, the whole Beatitudes, because it's really good stuff. So anyway, Matthew 5 verse 11 through 12. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So, Jesus got persecuted, the prophets got persecuted, people got persecuted. David got persecuted in the Bible. I mean, there's 4 straight chapters in the Bible where David was running for his life. And I feel like he might have been targeted. Saul put on a slander campaign. They were saying all kinds of stuff on David. And that's why the Psalms are so powerful, is because David wrote the Psalms while he was being chased by Saul. He was saying these prayers in his heart to God, and they were so powerful. There was one instance where, David was in a cave and Saul was right there and he was hid, and David cut a piece of his coat off. And the reason David did not kill Saul that day, he said, was because he would not kill a man that was anointed king by God. So yeah, there's a lot of powerful stuff in the Bible, powerful messages. So anyway, let me get to this information and start. I'm going to start by quoting James Giordano. He said, "What do we do with the tools and techniques we have? We can do what..." Oh, no, hold on, that's the wrong one. Can we handle the truth? Can we handle a machine that has the cognitive capability to use the first person singular, I, to tell us how it feels? Basically a real life, breathing, sensitive, and responsive entity, just like Pinocchio becomes a boy? If I stood before you a few years ago and told you this, I'd tell you this was science fiction. That's to start with once upon a time, but it's not science fiction anymore. We're linking machines to brains and creating brain machines. We're linking brains to the internet and data iClouds that make an unlimited amount of information available to us at all times. Yes, we can absolutely yoke brains to machines to create these interfaces. There's a brand new DARPA project called NESD, Neural Engineering Systems Design. The cortical, for the name, that is the cortical modem. The cortical modem. Implants in the brain that allow real-time input and output from the brain remotely. The idea is to be able to take key individual sets of biological metrics immediately and pull them into a large-scale data analytics to say, this is who this person is, this is what this person's been thinking, this is where this person's been, and this is who this person's been interacting with, etc. Scary. That type, and it's already going on. This technology's been out. That type of data could be very useful and puts the human brain in our fingertips. You used to need to be exceedingly close to someone to influence them with neural weapons, but now we've created potential to affect people in a variety of ways from a distance via nanoparticles. You may be wondering or asking the question, how much nanomaterial would I need? And I don't have a pen, but he says, take a look at this pen in my hand. This is the amount of nanomaterial. If I was nanomaterial needed, if I was able to maintain its deliverability and aerolization, could in fact control and manipulate all of you in this room. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he quotes, that a month does not go by where I don't get a call to my institute by someone claiming that the government implanted these nanoparticles in their brain without them not knowing. And he says, I'm not kidding, and although the sky might not be falling yet, I'm here to tell you, folks, it looks like rain. You better bring umbrella. It's end quote. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow was bombarded with directed energy weapons in the 1970s, causing many of the diplomats to become sick. The same thing is now happening in Havana, Cuba, and China, starting around 2017. First, one must be aware that such energies can be utilized for sensing and spying activities in an attempt to obtain restricted and secret information, either being discussed or transmitted. For instance, listening devices exist that can bounce energy frequencies off the window glass of an office, thus allowing the hearing of a private conversation inside. Second, directed energy weapons can be deployed in jamming and harassment roles to degrade embassy and staff functioning. This would be akin to disrupting cell phone receptions, local area networks, for example, from a computer to a printer, or even the more secure forms of communication. Third, electromagnetic frequencies may be utilized in order to injure personnel and destroy specific forms of military equipment. As national militaries increasingly weaponize the electromagnetic spectrum, the use of intra- and ultrasonic devices, high-powered microwaves, and lasers are becoming more common. Such advanced technologies are well suited for clandestine use because some of them, particularly certain sonic and high HPM technologies, can bypass physical walls and structures. They directly injure targeted individuals with virtually none of the conventional forensic evidence a firearm or explosive would leave behind. China is very well of these advanced weapon capabilities and actively pursuing them developmentally and field testing. I think we're turning the page, said Giordano, a professor of departments of neurology at Georgetown University. The Pentagon has taken notice of the event, and Giordano and the other two members will be briefing. This was old, so it don't matter the date. Anyway, neuroweapons can take the form of biological agents, chemical weapons, and in the Havana case, directed energy and possible combination of different methods, Giordano said. The effects can be latent, durable, highly disruptive, and attribution is difficult. They are not weapons of mass destruction, but they have the potential to disrupt everything from individual cells in the body to societies and geopolitics. The attacks occurred at the victims' homes with the exception of the attacks occurred at the victims' homes with the exception of the two cases that took place in a hotel known to accommodate diplomats and other U.S. personnel, said Dr. Michael Hoffer, director of the Vestibular and Balance program at the university. Hoffer was the first physician to examine the victims on the site in Cuba and later in Miami. I thought they were being targeted, he said. I still believe they're being targeted, he said. Those examined, and I'm going to stop right there. You know, these people are getting compensation because they were diplomats. What about the target individuals that are getting hit and suffering from this stuff that ain't diplomats? They're not getting no compensation, and it needs to be addressed. So those he examined were sitting in their homes at the hotel when they suddenly felt the symptoms: a loud noise exposure, pressure sensation, ear pain, then ringing in the ears and dizziness. A day later, there were some cognitive defects reported, a deficit. They would actually say that if they moved in their domicile, the beam, as it were, would follow them, except the minute they opened the front door, it went off. Hoffner carried out a series of preliminary tests on 100 personnel assigned to the embassy last summer, as well as 10 people who were in the same residence of the victims at the time of the attack, but in other rooms. No symptoms were found in the other 100 employees. Being in Havana shortly after the attacks and before news had reached the media was important because it gave Hoffer valuable insights, he said. Other than speaking to another victim about the symptoms, the victims were not influenced by newspaper accounts. In addition, he arrived relatively soon after the attacks when their memories of what happened were fresh and none of them had received any medical treatment. He also had the opportunity to see where the incidents occurred. I literally looked and walked at the places they were hit, he said. Most of the victims also worked in a particular part of the embassy, he added. They were really good at targeting, he said, of those who carried out the attacks. The homes were clustered in certain neighborhoods where diplomats reside, he added. People were hit from all branches of the State Department, but certain branches were hit more than others, he said. 35 potential victims, the 25 who reported symptoms plus the 10 who were residents at the same time, were flown to Miami, where an interdisciplinary team of experts from the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine carried out a battery of more detailed tests. Hoffer was able to quickly rule out the possibility that they had experienced traumatic brain injury. As a retired Navy captain and doctor, he examined more than 3,000 service members who experienced TBI, and that was not it. Plus, none of the victims had reported injuring their head. The team recorded objective findings of balance disorders on 100% of the 25 victims who reported the symptoms. Everyone was abnormal in at least one balance test. We made sure they were super abnormal, not just barely abnormal, Hofner said. The 10 people who were in the same building at the same attacks showed no symptoms. That's how precise they are. The 25 victims also had a unique pattern of cognitive disorders that the co-lead of the team, the university's director of neuropsychology, Dr. Baum, picked up. He said, Giordano said direct energy weapons can cause these energies by creating cavitation or air pockets in the fluids near the inner ear. The shape of the inner ear amplifies sounds and waveforms to cause the effect. The process creates air bubbles or cavities that eventually burst. Near the inner ear are two pathways carrying blood to the brain, the cochlear aqueduct and the vestibular aqueduct. The bubbles can travel rapidly up the aqueducts into the brain where they can function as a stroke. And it goes, P.S. I'm going to quote a patent. Look up patent number 6011991, remote neural monitoring from 1999-2000. Your brain is remotely tied to a supercomputer for life via the nanobots they spray in chemtrails, which you breathe in or ingest through food and water, and are attached to your neurons, which monitor and manipulates all electromagnetic activity of the brains. See targeted individuals in gang stalking. They map out a victim's brains through trauma and daily scenarios to invoke every imaginable human emotion: lust, love, fear, hate, etc. Not only is this the new form of MK Ultra mind control, but this is the new frontier, as seen in Westworld, the machines intermingling with humans, which the robots and supercomputers are learning from us in order to become more anthropomorphic, which leads us to the overall agenda of transhumanism, the singularity in humans merging with AI. So understand these supercomputers are using a computer multiplexer which is routing the signal to tower mobile platforms. Then this platform relays the signal to the digital receiver, similar to how cell phone technology works. So the digital receivers are tracked and pinpointed in real time. This technology is dependent upon time and location. Except with CIA, DI, DARPA mind control technologies, the receiver is not a cell phone. It's actually a human brain which has been digitized by the nanotechnology particles which have been ingested, mainly through the hydrosphere. Because we all drink water, this nanotech is in the brains of all 350 million Americans. The nano is programmed to find its way towards the brain after ingestion, where it adheres to the neurons, then speaks to decode the victim's neurotransmitters after it's activated. They can activate the nanotech from thousands of miles away through a process called direct energy flashing. Photons. The victim's brain is then a transmitter and receiver of all bidirectional stream of energy, which moves at the speed of light. And I'll end my video right there. Like I said, I got some good videos coming up. I found tons of information, deep information, about different kind of stuff. That's deep. So be looking for some good videos and some good information coming up in the next couple days. Thank y'all, and God bless.